Good afternoon and welcome to Law and Crime. I'm Angelica Spanos. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. All right, a lot to break down about Robert Durst. With me to do that is trial attorney Chad Young. Chad, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So were you surprised about the judge's ruling on this, first off?
I was. I mean, we don't know what type of critical evidence could have been in this material that that the defense team is now not going to get to examine and potentially use.
And do you think that going forward this is harmful to the defense? Because this is just one of, now that we've seen at least three, we'll see three pretrial hearings before this trial starts. With, by the way, they've now said the trial will start in February, on February 11th. So that was pushed back even further. So we have another hearing we're expecting November 14th. We have the one from September and the one yesterday. So three in total. How does this work with the defense here?
Well, it's creating a huge challenge for them. And to be honest, we don't know how harmful it's going to be or could potentially be to the defense because we simply now are not going to know what type of evidence was in the material that the judge denied them. It could have been very beneficial to the defense. It could have been irrelevant to the defense. We'll never know because we're never going to get to see that evidence.
Right. And we know that the defense was initially upset about a moment where Durst was heard off camera. He was mic'd up and he was in the bathroom and he said, "What the hell did I do? I killed them all, of course." And that they are taking, the prosecution is taking as a confession, but the defense now then wanted unedited notes, transcripts, video from all these interviews that were conducted with him for this TV show. All right, so that is a pretty damning clip that can be used against Durst, arguably, Chad. What do you think? What's your reaction to this clip in general before we get into some of the nitty-gritty?
Oh boy, is this a confession or is this sarcasm? And this is a big reason why I disagree with the judge's ruling, because the defense argument is obviously that he was just being sarcastic. He was sort of replaying the questions out in his mind as he thought he was off mic. And, you know, their argument, and I agree with them, we need the rest of those tapes. We need the rest of that interview to be able to prove our point that he was just sort of reliving the questions and then perhaps, you know, being sarcastic in that. I think it was very damning to the defense not to have that opportunity.
And when you think about this clip, and as you said, you know, we might need to see some more of the context around this. What happened after this? What was recorded right before this? Things like that. Do you think the context of this would be huge?
Oh, I think so. I mean, if the defense's argument is that this was sarcasm, okay, why was he going to this moment of sarcasm in his mind at this particular time? I think to lay the foundation for that, the defense would need to use what was going on just prior to these comments, what was going on just prior to this restroom break, what was the line of questioning, what was being discussed, what got Mr. Durst to that point of running through those thoughts in his mind at that time.
And when we have a TV show built around a big case like this, which this isn't the first time we've seen something like this, how do you separate that out when we have a new trial coming up with this exact thing involved in this context? Is that hard?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do when you're picking a jury in your new case is to make sure that your jury has not seen the show, make sure that your jury has not heard any of the news or media coverage about this show, because you do not want your jury to be prejudiced by something they may have seen or heard in the show.
Right, which will be interesting because this is something that everyone has their eyeballs on these days, all of these crime shows, especially with HBO. We heard some details about when this body was found, and we kept hearing the phrase lying in wait. And this was referring to Durst and how he potentially was waiting with the intent to kill Susan Berman. So, Chad, why are they bringing this in here, and what's the prosecutor trying to say by bringing in lying in wait?
Well, lying in wait can be a factor in determining what caliber, what level, exactly what type of murder a defendant can be charged with. If someone lies in wait in order before they commit a murder, then they had a lot of time to think about it, they had time to contemplate it, they had time to decide not to do it. It's definitely evidence that it was not a crime of passion. It was certainly not self-defense, that, you know, you took affirmative steps and you had time to sort of think about what you were about to do. And of course, when that is part of a murder, then it brings with it extra punishment.
And one of the other things we heard him mention was this cadaver note. And that also is a key part of this because the defense wants handwriting experts to be able to come in here, and they want to be able to get more and things uncovered about this cadaver note, which is another, like I said, going to be a key part here. So let's play you this part right now. All right, so a big deal about this cadaver note. And Chad, why are they making this such a big deal? Why is this note so important?
Well, this was a note that was informing the police that there's a dead body in this house and how they can go about finding it. The prosecutor is using that to say this was someone who cared about this victim that would have sent this note. This is someone who had respect for the body of this victim. Well, the prosecutors are alleging that person is one of her best friends, Robert Durst. If it were someone else that had killed this victim, then they likely would not have cared to have respect for her body and to show respect in that type of way.
So they're using that to circle it back to him by saying he knew her faith, and that's why the preservation of this body is important and things like that?
Correct.
And we know that the judge will allow the state's handwriting expert to testify in this trial, and that came out yesterday. And that's going to be important because this, as we said, this points the alleged killer as Durst. So with that ruling made yesterday with the judge allowing this handwriting expert to testify, how's that play in here?
Well, it's going to be, both sides can use it, right? Because as I understand it, this expert is prepared to come in and testify that they cannot, within a reasonable degree of their expert certainty, say that Robert Durst is the author of this note. But, quote, I'm pretty sure. That's what my understanding of what the expert's going to testify to. So if I'm the prosecutor, I'm going to say, pretty sure is pretty good. Pretty sure is pretty close. Pretty sure is enough evidence to say that this man wrote this letter. However, if I'm the defense attorney, I'm going to chip away at, wait a minute, you're an expert? Wait a minute, you know how to render an expert opinion, and there is something about this note that is preventing you from rendering an expert opinion? I would argue as a defense attorney, that's going to equal reasonable doubt.
Right. Why can't you give a definitive answer if you're this expert?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Chad. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we'll continue to break down this hearing about Robert Durst. Stay with us here on Law and Crime.